Welcome back to my channel. The movie starts with a morning scene in Jerusalem City. A boy keeps bringing eggs repeatedly. He is bringing them for a man named Hercule Poirot. He gives the boy the task that all the eggs should be of the same size because he was obsessed with perfection. But the boy couldn't find them. Anyway, the eggs that were found, they start making food with them. Hercule Poirot, who is a detective, is approached by an officer who informs him about an issue. Someone has stolen a valuable relic. Now, this case was to be solved by Hercule Poirot. There were priests, monks, and an imam there, and it was suspected that one of them had stolen it. Hercule Poirot comes out to solve the case and tells everyone that these three are under suspicion. Meanwhile, we see that an hour ago the officer was watching these three arguing inside the church. Hercules says that although the police don't have any solid evidence, they found marks of a soldier's boot on a painting. So, the case is quite easy. Well, it was difficult for the police, which is why they handed this case to the famous detective Hercule Poirot. But if anyone could solve the case, it was Hercule Poirot, the great and famous detective. He tells people while planting his stick in the door and positions the police at the entrance. He says that these kinds of soldier boots don't belong to the priest, monk, or imam. They belong to the officer. Upon searching, the relic is found with the officer, who then tries to run away. At the entrance, Hercule had already sent the police, and the officer, running against the wall, crashes into the detective's cane and falls down. It was as if the detective had already seen in the future that the officer would try to escape and had made arrangements accordingly. From this, we can see how sharp-minded the detective is. With his intelligence, he has solved many big cases. Hercule Poirot boards the boat. He meets a doctor and a girl, and as soon as he meets her, he tells her that she is from Baghdad. The girl tells him that she has a background in geography. It seemed that the doctor and the lady knew each other. On this boat, they were heading to Istanbul for a holiday. In the kitchen, the detective meets Mr. Buck. They start talking. Meanwhile, a man rushes to the detective. The detective immediately tells him that he is from the British consulate and has come regarding a cancer case. So now, the detective had to leave his current case and go back for the new one. Mr. Buck arranges a cabin for him on the Orient Express. The next scene moves towards the train, where we see many characters from the rest of the movie's cast. Each one has their own personality, and they are all different. The train starts and people begin boarding. The detective gets cabin number 3, which he will share with another passenger. Now we see Mr. Ratchet, who appears to be angry for some reason. He also has a gun with him. Someone has sent him a note with letters cut out from a newspaper. It's unclear who sent it. In the next scene, we see Mrs. Hubbard and Ratchet. She insults Ratchet and later goes to his cabin. Now, everyone is here for lunch. The detective and Book are talking to each other. After that, Ratchet comes and sits with the detective, telling him that he is receiving death threats. He asks the detective to protect him until he reaches a safe place. The detective knows about his business dealings, which he doesn't like, so he refuses his offer. Ratchet threatens him, but the detective still refuses. At night, the detective hears some noises from Ratchet's cabin. He comes out, and the train staff, including Michelle, knock on the door, asking what's going on. Ratchet replies in French that nothing happened. The detective enters, checks the time, and tries to sleep. But there are still noises coming from outside. He goes out to check and sees someone running. Now we see that due to bad weather, snow falls on the track and the train gets stuck. Now, until help arrives, they are stranded. Book tells them that help will arrive soon. Now we see everyone in the train sitting in one room, but Mr. Ratchet and the detective are missing. When food is brought for Ratchet, the detective knocks on his door, but Ratchet doesn't answer. They send someone to call Mr. Book and the doctor. They break down the door and go inside, where they find that Ratchet has been murdered. The doctor explains that someone repeatedly stabbed him with a knife, and the murder took place around 2 a.m. Mr. Buck asks the detective to solve the case, and he starts working on it. He tells everyone about the incident and checks everyone's reactions. Meanwhile, people arrive to assist him. One by one, he investigates all the passengers on the train. First, he talks to Ratchet's secretary, McQueen. He tells them that Ratchet took care of all his business affairs. He last saw him after 10 p.m. Up until 2 a.m., Ratchet was talking to the doctor. McQueen also shows the detective the death threats that Ratchet had received. Now the detective and Ratchet's bodyguard go to examine the body. they see that Ratchet was stabbed 12 times, and the stabs don't follow any pattern. The clock in his cabin had stopped at 1:15. They also found a cup of drugged coffee, which is why he couldn't use his gun. They find a lady's handkerchief with the letter H written on it, and an ashtray with a burned note. They decode the note, which has a warning written on it. The detective tells Book that Ratchet's original name was Cassidy. He was involved in the Armstrong case. John Armstrong and his daughter Daisy were kidnapped by someone, and a few days later, Daisy's body was found. Cassidy, Ratchet, had killed Daisy. Due to the shock, both the husband and wife died. Now, Hubert claims that someone was in her room, and she shows them a button as proof. Next, they meet Masterman, who tells them that the last time he saw Mr. Ratchet was at 9 o'clock. The detective asks him about the drugged coffee, but he doesn't know anything about it. The detective then investigates Miss Pyler, who tells him that at 11:20 she accidentally opened Ratchet's door. The detective notices marks on her hands, and she tells him that she does fighting training, and that's why she has those marks. The detective had seen a photo of Mr. Marquis's driver, so he adds him to the suspect list. He then interrogates Miss Mary, asking her to write her name and address so he can analyze her handwriting. He tells her that the doctor and she know each other, and asks her to tell him what she knows, but she refuses to share anything, so she becomes a suspect as well. Now, they speak with Princess Dragomirov, who tells them that the Armstrong family was very close to her. They were relatives, and Daisy was her goddaughter. The detective tells her that it was Cassidy, Ratchet, who killed Daisy, to which she responds that it's a coincidence she's traveling on the same train that Cassidy was on. The detective then speaks with her maid, who tells him that the conductor who was outside that night was not the same person as usual. They saw a man running past Ratchet's cabin that night, wearing a red gown. The detective checks everyone's luggage, but cannot find the dress anywhere. He realizes that all the luggage has been checked except for his own, and when he opens his briefcase, he finds the dress. He then checks the servant's cabin and finds the conductor's uniform, which is missing a button. The uniform smells of the drink that McQueen drinks. They see that McQueen is running away, and they chase him. He is burning something. They catch him, and it turns out that he was involved in stealing Cassidy's money but had no connection to the murder. At that point, the doctor arrives and confirms that McQueen was with him at the time of the murder, so he cannot be the suspect. The doctor smokes a pipe, and he is the only one on the train who does so. A pipe cleaner was also found in Cassidy's cabin. The detective asks him tough questions, but he denies knowing anything about Cassidy's murder or Mary. The detective is finding it difficult to get to the real killer. One person seems like the killer at one point, but then suspicion shifts to another person, and the focus moves away from the first suspect. The case is becoming very complicated. The detective now returns to McQueen and reveals some details about his past. He tells McQueen that he was involved in the Armstrong case. He explains that McQueen's father was pressured to go against a woman, which led to her committing. Later, evidence against Cassidy was found, and everyone turned against McQueen's father, leaving him in debt. But McQueen insists that he did not commit the murder. Meanwhile, they hear a noise, and when they check, they find that Miss Hubert has been stabbed. The detective tells everyone to stay in one place so that no one can harm each other. The real killer might do anything to save themselves, including trying to destroy evidence. Elena's husband was acting strange and overreacting, so the detective came to interrogate him. He notices that her husband is addicted to drugs. There, he finds the same drug that was mixed in Cassidy's coffee. As the detective starts talking to him, he discovers that her name is not Elena but Helena. She had erased the H on her passport. Helena is Sonia Armstrong's sister. This could mean that she was the sister who killed Cassidy to avenge her sister, but she denies it. Her husband then attacks her, but the professor arrives and saves her. The detective talks to the professor and tells him that he is not German and not a professor because his style of speaking is not German. The professor admits that he is not a professor, but detective, and that Cassidy had hired him for protection. He had been keeping an eye on Cassidy from his cabin the entire time, but he didn't see anyone suspicious enter Cassidy's cabin. The detective asks everyone to sit together in a nearby tunnel and meets Mary alone on the train. He tells her that she worked at Armstrong's house and took care of their daughter. Mary admits that she worked there and says that she was there when Daisy was kidnapped. She had to hide this because she feared no one would give her a job otherwise. The detective, being sharp-minded, knows how to extract the truth. He plays a bluff based on the circumstances and guesses that Mary worked at the Armstrong house, and she starts revealing more details on her own. Just as Mary is about to tell more and help capture the killer, the doctor arrives and shoots at the detective. The bullet grazes the detective's arm. The doctor says that Mary didn't do it, he killed Cassidy. Colonel John Armstrong was my close friend, and because of him, I got admission to medical school. Otherwise, people of my kind would never be allowed to progress. And because of Cassidy, many good people were killed, so I decided to kill him. Now, a fight breaks out between them. Everyone uses their sticks to disarm him, and he tries to knock the detective down, but Book intervenes and saves him. The detective gathers everyone together. He says that the doctor is a sharpshooter, so he could never miss his target. He didn't want to kill me. Now, there are two possible answers to this murder mystery. One is that we know Ratchet had many enemies. When the train left, the murderer boarded. Taking advantage of the opportunity, the murderer killed Ratchet with the help of the uniform and masterman and then got off the train. The second possibility is that it was the murder of a murderer, so who could benefit from this? Now, there are many suspects. The doctor, who is Armstrong's friend. Mary, who took care of Daisy and was like a mother to her. Helena, who is Sonia's younger sister. Princess Natalia, who was Daisy's grandmother's friend and was like a grandmother to Daisy. The handkerchief found in Ratchet's cabin, which had H written on it in Russian, which is N in English, indicating it was Princess Natalia's. The princess's maid, who also worked as Armstrong's cook. Pilar, the nurse, who put Ratchet to sleep before he kidnapped Daisy. Cassidy's butler, who says he worked for Armstrong. Mr. Benjamin, who was helped by Armstrong to get a loan, and now owns a showroom. Detective Herdman, who was previously a police officer, and was appointed by the government for the Armstrong case. The conductor, Michelle, who is the brother of the girl who committed because McQueen's father called her guilty. The person who suffered the most here was Linda Arden, Sonia's mother, Daisy's grandmother, and the princess's friend, who is with us as Miss Hubbard. The death of Daisy had affected many lives, and everyone was saddened. They all wanted to take revenge on Ratchet, so they planned and executed his murder. Miss Hubbard says, "They are all good people. I called them here." Detective Hercule says, "I can't lie. If you want to hide it all, just kill me." But they don't kill him, and Miss Hubbard tries to do foolish things, but the gun has no bullets. Hercule didn't let her die. Now, the railway track is clear, and the train starts moving again, reaching the next station. The police come and take Cassidy's body. Hercule doesn't tell them about the murderer, and they leave on the train. There, he finds another letter about a murder, which he now has to solve. This murder occurred on the River Nile. The movie ends here.